Very, very, very good morning to you. Welcome to reality.
Yes, Benny. Morning. How are you, mate? What a weekend of sport. You've touched on a few of the outcomes over sport, and that's right across the globe. But obviously, if we narrow our focus to our own backyard here, the Brisbane Broncos, the red pen is officially out and has put the line through the Broncos playing semi-finals. 40 points to 6 in that. Well, domination is probably only way you can put it.
Dolphin domination, indeed.
It was an incredible performance from the Dolphins. I thought they come out of the blocks and they showed their intentions right from the start. Right from the start, and they just went on with it. And the Broncos just quite simply didn't have the answers. Did not have the answers. They crossed through just a bit of individual brilliance in a sheer barge over from Pat Carrigan, but that was as good as it got.
And didn't the boys get around him too, mate?
Well, that's another question, right? It's a really strange one.
Yeah.
If you compare the two, so Jermaine Asako scores over the right-hand corner. I reckon 13 players on the field jumped, ran, were elated, their emotion with Jermaine. And I think 2 for the Broncos in regards to when Pat Carrigan scored. At that point in time, I think it was 12-0 to make it 12-6.
Yeah.
Well and truly in the game. And there's a lot of things that you can draw or you can look at, particularly from, body language, emotion, and that's one of them. And when you see the likes of Penrith Panthers who celebrate every success that they can find, so much so that they cop a bit of criticism from the other way. Oh, they carry on too much, etc. Well, I'd rather that than not have any jubilation or emotion shown from the teammates. So obviously when the team's not going any good, you look and you try and dissect, well, why isn't it going any good? Why is there no cohesion? Why is there no connectivity? And then you start to look and you see examples like that. Like that was glaring. That was alarming for me. So it was a performance from Wayne Bennett's men, however, which were outstanding.
And I want to
the
get
best
into
game that the Dolphins have played in their short little tenure as a football club.
And one of the boldest selection calls Wayne Bennett has made, someone said the other day, almost as big or probably the biggest since he dropped Wally Lewis and brought in Kevin Walters, putting Avarillo at 5'8". And we will get into that because we do have to give the Dolphins credit.
Of course.
But, geez, the Broncos, and it does sound broken record-like, doesn't it? It does sound like that it's for the last 6 weeks, for actually the last 3 months, it just feels like what's going on with the Broncos. I played it at the beginning of the program, and this, to me, sums up a lot because there weren't too many answers. Kevin Walters, again, in his media conference, taking umbrage at a question by Travis Main, it was, from News Limited.
Kevin, you said it's not part of who you are as a club and team, but that wasn't a one-off tonight. You've had some pretty poor losses the last 3 months.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
What about the Bulldogs game here? It was pretty bad.
Oh, well, yeah, it wasn't great, but... Yeah, what do you think? You seem to know a lot about everything.
What do you mean I seem to know a lot about everything? I'm just asking you. You're saying it's not part of your team, but it's
not,
happened
no.
more than once, Kevin.
Yeah, it has, which is not... That's what I'm saying, it's not great, so...
When you hear that, Corey, it's he wound it back pretty quickly, Kevy.
He did. Look, clearly
But-
he's frustrated, the coach. And to Travis Main, obviously the journo, has been for a long period of time. They have a job to do. And part of that job is to ask questions that, A, they want to know, and B, the fans want to know, and everyone in the general public want to know. It's really important for a coach, a head coach, and the good ones do have it. When I mean the good ones, the ones that have been in it for long periods of time. So Craig Bellamy, for example, to have media managers that, A, they trust, but more importantly, they come up with a plan. It may only be a quick couple of minutes before they go to a press conference because they're bound to do it. They have to go there. And you need to have some sort of a plan going into a press conference. Importantly, when you know what sort of questions are going to come at you and you know you're under fire and you know you're under a bit of pressure.
Of course, I know where you're going with this, but that's not that reaction in there, that's a pure human reaction.
This is my point.
Yeah,
Ben.
that
I don't think any conversations are being had before Kevy goes into a press conference. with a media manager. I could be completely wrong, but from what we've seen, the messaging is so vital, messaging to fans, because that's what they hang on.
Yeah.
After a win, you hang on it. After a loss, you also hang on it. What's the coach got to say? What's the captain got to say? What sort of messaging are we going to have? And there was every coach has their own way of messaging. You listen to Des Hasler pregame, absolute dribbles, just takes you on he does.
Yeah.
He takes you on a walk down a path.
Yeah.
So much so at the end of the path you think, well, what have we just
It's like following Kedron Brook all the way
what
out
have
to
we
like
just spoken about?
Where have I got
But
to? Yeah.
off camera, Desi, completely different. So he understands what he does. Craig Bellamy, very much the same. Wayne Bennett. Is there any more unique individual when they talk press conferences than Wayne Bennett? Wayne Bennett, after that game, didn't hold him too long, ticked the box that he had to tick, and then thanked him, got up, moved on. Shane Flanagan for the Dragons. Dismal performance in that first half from the Dragons. Like it has cost them the opportunity to play semi-finals. Shane Flanagan, front of the media, was brutally honest. Then said, look, guys, thanks very much for your time. I don't want to waste it anymore. Hopped up, walked out.
Yeah.
Had a plan on where he was going, what he was doing, his messaging. I just feel from the Broncos' point of view, it looked as though, and I could be wrong, that there was no plan from Kevy. And there needed to be. Because now we're sitting here talking about the press conference, and he obviously got personal a little bit there with Trav Main, and Trav's got every right to ask the question, as Kevy has to answer.
Yeah.
But his messaging could have been a lot different. And I understand he wears his heart on his sleeve. I understand he's passionate. We all love that side of him. But we also got to understand that you need to have a plan. You need to control the narrative. And it could have been something as simple as, we're very disappointed. We'll have a full review at the end of the season. That can be your messaging. That can be as straight as it has to be.
Which is what we've been hearing, though, for a month,
it could
maybe
be as
longer.
straight as it is. And don't deviate from that.
Yeah.
Don't bend. Don't move off that path, because when you do bend, you come under fire. You come under enormous fire.
I go back to that Bulldogs match that Trav was referring to, and everyone remembers it's everything to play for at home against, you were a spot in the 8 was beckoning, 41-16, and that was July 27. So then after that, they back it up with a 46-18 thumping by the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Titans are struggling to beat an egg. But they beat the Broncos and then gave them some encouragement. They were pushed by Parramatta. You go back even further. The Warriors beat them 32-16. And the Bunnies beat them 22. These
no
are the
one
teams,
likes it.
No, Buzz, no one does like it. So, Cos, on that messaging, actually, that's you've pulled me up here because in the media, as a journo, as a broadcaster, we look for grabs, we look for the intent, we look for something to help tell the story. But as a Broncos fan, actually, this is a good take. As a Broncos fan, what does that message send to you? 13 13 55 0467 736 736. As a Broncos fan, are you happy with what you're hearing from Kevy? It seems like it's the same stuff we've been hearing for weeks. So if the plan has come in, what is it? And has it really turned it around? 13 13 55 0467 736 736. We'll get to your I'll get to your text in just a moment. Again, you've got the open line to Corey Parker there as well. Any questions? Let's get into your old coach as well, Wayne Bennett, because we can't take away from the Dolphins. This was a good old-fashioned ambush, and Wayne Bennett tactically, the changes that were made were just scratching your head going, how is this ever going to work? Oh, my God. It was a masterstroke.
Incredible coaching, wasn't it, from Wayne? And one of Wayne's cliche lines that he has just forever used is, if you do what you always did, you get what you always got. And I read that through the week. Obviously, meaning the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So Wayne needed a circuit breaker. He needed something to change. Well, guess what it was? It was Trey Fuller back at fullback, who is an excitement machine, who's very difficult to pull down, who had an outstanding game. Like he was exceptional, Trey Fuller.
I heard Mark Nichols say at the beginning of the week, Trey Fuller, every time he's played, has got the player's player. If not every
Yeah.
time, all but every time.
So he had 19 runs, Trey Fuller, for nearly 200 run metres, 13 tackle breaks. Like, he was a handful. So what that then did was, well, Trey's our fullback. We got to move the Hammer. So the Hammer, who's, again, was a selfless move from him to go into the centres. Well, he's finished with, a couple of tries, the Hammer, and off the back of that, unbelievable game. But then that meant, well, if Avarillo's in the centre, where do we put him?
Yeah.
Well, we'll just move Avarillo into the halves. Into the halves?
What?
About Katoa?
Yeah.
No, we're going to move Avarillo. So he moves into the halves, who he's got, he's so quick, Avarillo. So his ability to get across defenders was great, and we saw that. He had dropped Herbie off for a couple of tries.
But that's the thing, he's ball playing. He's playmaking.
Well, all it was, Benny, was just his speed to get across defenders. And then Herbie, who is, I've been a massive fan of Herbie ever since he arrived at Brisbane. And for the people who don't know his story, arrived at Brisbane when he was 13 years of age, lived with his uncle for a long until he was old enough to move out, living away from home because he had an opportunity and all he wanted to do was play for Broncos. 13, Ben.
Yeah.
And
Kid from Wigan.
He's come along in leaps and bounds, so much so that we saw, he's played for his country and what he's able to do. Love him. They've missed him. Absolutely missed him. He had his finest game, I think, ever, Herbie Farnworth. 2 tries, 250-odd run metres, 10 tackle breaks and a few line breaks, a couple of try assists. It was an incredible performance. But you go back to Wayne Bennett, there was a circuit breaker. He had to change it.
Yeah.
And he got a result. Not only a result, it's elevated them. For the greater good of the game, and I throw out there to all the Knights fans, I'm sorry, but I want to see the Dolphins play semi-finals.
I think every NRL fan wants to see the Dolphins
and I think
play
they
finals.
deserve it. And I'm a big.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer is you get what you deserve.
Yep.
You do get what you deserve. More importantly, in professional sport, you get what you deserve. And it's probably fair to say that the Broncos don't deserve to play semi-finals on the results that we have seen.
Yeah.
But one thing we also could probably say is, geez, it'd be good to see the Dolphins play semis.
13-13-55. The Alltel open line is there for you. Alltel, the Better Business telco. Greg is at Everton Hills. Greg, morning to you before we go to a break.
Hey, buddy, how you going? Feeling a bit flat with the boys bowing out, but next year, I guess. Listen, with Kevy, he says he doesn't know, he's frustrated. That's a real worry for me, like smarter people than me at Red Hill, but from a watcher and a punter, if he doesn't know what he's doing, he can't understand what's going wrong, how do the players know what to do on the field? What's their game plan? They just seem to lack forwards. There's no sting in the forwards, and the backs seem to be forced into ad-lib footy.
Hey, Greg, it's a good point, and I'm going to get Corey to sit on it, to stew on it, and we'll get his answer straight after the break, because I'm looking at the time where you have just spent the last 20 minutes, but we could spend the next 20 days talking about what the hell is going on at Red Hill. 13-13-55, Alltel Open Line, your business outsourcing partner. Jump on. It is there, ready for you, just like Greg has said. We're keeping an eye on what's happening at Flushing Meadows as well. We know Alexi Popperin is going to be in action. It's a big 3 hours here on SENQ. 20 minutes past 9, the Monday Means Test with Corey Parker. All thanks to KFC. Order today. Coming out of Red Hill, what message is being sent by Kevy in that media conference to Broncos fans? 13-13-55 0467 736 736. It is the Monday Means Test, all thanks to KFC. You can score big with the Colonel, the famous chicken, the chips, the burgers, something for everyone, Cozza. Drive-through opens in about 34 minutes, but who's counting? You can order today. This text saying Kevy pretty much admitted in the press conference that he has no answers, but saying to the journalist that he seems to have all the answers. Greg's call just before the break. Yeah. Answer on the back of that. I mean, he mentioned forwards as well. I actually fear for Jordan Ricky. I haven't seen him. He's been missing since Origin. Someone's been playing in his jumper, but it hasn't been Jordan Ricky. I think the police someone needs to file a missing persons report.
Yeah, this is where I go with it. I mean, again, Greg's call was warranted and his opinion is warranted also. The only two players that aren't there, that were there in the grand final team, is Tom Flegler and Keenan Palacia.
Herbie?
Out of the forward pack.
Oh, out of the
That
forward
is
pack.
the only
Apologies.
two
Yep.
players.
Yep.
You can't tell me, Ben, that the forward pack that went to a grand final and was so dominant.
Kurt Cable?
Pardon me, and Kurt Cable.
Yep.
That was so dominant
Yep.
throughout that season last year. They're the difference. They aren't. The problem stems deeper than just some forwards. Can they get some extra forwards? Absolutely. But that's not the be all and end all for the Broncos and why they haven't gone to where they are at the moment. When I go through their list, there's some individuals there. I mean, Fletcher Baker was brought from the Roosters to the Brisbane. Obviously, high hopes had for him. He had some injuries and the like. Hasn't been used. Jack Gojewski, they bought from the Cowboys mid-season. Again, injury, hadn't really been used. Jaden Hunt, the same thing, injury as well. So that's played its part. I get that. But as we've just spoken about with Wayne Bennett, there has to be change. Now, whether it's personnel, whether it's coaching, and that's going to change because the two assistant coaches have already made plans to go elsewhere at the end of the year. That was all. Those plans were made mid-season, or just after halfway mark of the season. So that plays its part also. So there's a little instability there.
Do Trent Barrett and Ben Teo make the difference?
If the problems aren't solved, the two coaches that are coming in aren't going to make the difference. Do you understand what I mean there? So if you can't identify what the problems are, that being resilient, defence, all that sort of stuff.
Well, those two aren't bringing baggage or problems with them.
Correct.
So the problems that are existing
if you don't uncover what the root of the problem has been for this season, and you can't just blame injury because we've gone down the path of injuries with all the other clubs. Melbourne Storm have lost. Well, they lost their fifth game on the weekend with a depleted side. They've had their injuries. So you need to unearth where the problem stems from and what that is. But if you don't, it doesn't matter who comes in. It just doesn't. You need to unearth the problem it is. And I go back to the 2022 season.
So is personnel? So you're saying it's not personnel. You just listed those.
I don't think it's personnel. The Broncos have a roster, Ben, that should be sitting a lot higher than what it is.
Yeah.
I go back, and I've banged on about it before. Training standards, values, what the club stands for, what they, the culture, and a culture is a buzzword. And again, I'll reiterate it. For me, culture is the standard you're not willing to walk past. I think if they go through it with a fine-tooth comb, there's been a fair bit of things that have happened throughout the season that have been walked past, opposed to the season that it was the year before.
The Alltel open line. Alltel, build greater customer experiences with Alltel Contact Centre Outsourcing. It's where we find Greg is on the north side. Greg, morning to you.
Morning, boys.
Morning.
Just wanted to say, I'm not a Broncos supporter, but
How are you feeling this morning, Greg?
well, from watching the game, I've watched football all my life, and I watch pretty much every game every weekend. And you've got blokes like Jordan Ricky who'll stand out in the centres thinking that he's a centre, only doing 11 hit-ups in a game, making an average of 5 metres each hit-up. And you got 3 blokes in your forward pack doing all the hard work. Now there's enough. You got all those blokes in the forward pack. You need everyone doing hit-ups, not just 2 or 3 blokes. You can't, Paddy Carrigan goes out there and kills himself every week, and the other boys don't even get around him when he scores a try. So, I think a lot of these blokes need to go back into Q Cup and learn what it is about playing football for good dollars.
Hey, Greg, it's not a bad one. Getting dropped. I mean, it's not going to work for this week because I got the Melbourne Storm and then it's all over Red Rover. Greg, but that's a good shout. Thank you. 13-13-55. Has Greg hit the nail on the head? Is it about making hard calls as coach himself? I mean, Jordan Ricky was an assassin when it came to kick chase. Tristan Saylor used to be his punching bag or tackle bag at training. His kick chase was exceptional, one of the best in the competition last year. And yet I was being facetious about putting a missing persons report in, but I mean, it's fair income. I mean, where's Jordan Ricky been? And you know what? I'm singling him out because he was so good. He set the benchmark last year, and this year, where has it been? 13 55 0467 736 736. I promise we'll get into the Dolphins straight after Vanessa's news. It's 9:32. Corey, this will fix you. The Broncos look uninterested and unfit, especially Cobbo was unseen for much of the game until he did a 10-metre run in the second half, but had his hands on his head, taking in the big ones, just like he'd run the field. No name on that text. I am asking you, or we are asking you this morning, one word that pops into your mind for Broncos 2024. What do they need to fix them in the Coldplay way? Matt has said resilience. Adam from Mango Hill has said, "G'day, Ben and Cos. The word I have for the Broncos, and only one thing that will help them, God." So, Adam, good stuff. Thank you. The two Gregs that have called in as well, all in the draw for the $100 KFC voucher. If you've got that bad taste in your mouth this morning as a Bronco fan, KFC will help you get rid of that. The Colonel has got it all cooking, Corey. Now, speaking of the Colonel getting it cooking, Wayne Bennett, what is he? Is he the general? Is he the major? Is he the
Clint
president?
Eastwood.
Actually,
he could be the original Colonel. Yeah, it's him.
Could he be God after what he pulled out over the weekend? You touched on it earlier, the coaching master stroke. Wayne Bennett had you for most of your career.
Yes.
What has there been, or were you part of a game that he kept things under wraps and then pulled out something like this?
Yeah, every now and then Wayne just fires a little shot over the bow and just keeps everyone honest. But I touched on it before. He needed a circuit breaker for the Dolphins, who, up until the game on the weekend, they were just bubbling along. I think they were 3 from 12. They're back end of the season in terms
and all the word was on him signing with South and lost interest.
He needed a circuit breaker, and by doing that, he thought, well, I need to change some positions around here, and I need to get these players in, etc., etc. So let's take into consideration, no Cody Nikorima, who's been terrific for them all year, no Jesse Bromwich, who is their captain. Yeah. So two of their leaders weren't part of that game the other day, sorry. So every now and then, Wayne just throws a little curly one to keep you honest and across. And
because he sold the dummy so well, because during the week it was about, players who weren't there, guys limping off training, Tavita hamstring, Ray Stone neck, Plathie with his foot. They weren't going to get a team together to train until the captain's run. Who knew who was playing where? Well, I tell you what, the super coach knew who was playing where. Herbie Farnworth gave it up post-match on Fox.
What can you say about Wayne? He came in, completely switched up the team. We didn't even train in this team at the start of the week because we didn't want the media to get hold of the switches. So yeah, it's been a little masterclass from Wayne, that's for sure.
So Herbie, what did the switches do to the actual performance tonight? Because everyone contributed.
I think it just really put a tone on everyone just to focus on their own job and get it done, and that's what the boys did.
Oh, would they tell you that?
Herbie and Hammer.
Wow. I'll have to talk to those boys.
Can you tell us about them?
No, I just didn't think you needed to know. I'll have to talk to those players. We're talking too much.
He was up and about. That's as good as you'll see, Wayne. He was up and about. That win, that obviously his first victory over the Broncos. They were 3-0 going into that game. And the way that he was able to dismantle that team and 40 points to 6 and put the red pen through the Brisbane Broncos season certainly sat pretty well with Wayne.
Their first win in their first ever game against the Roosters, you'd have to think until that point would have been the best win and the best game of their short career, their short life, the Dolphins. But Saturday night, that outshone it.
It certainly did. And to answer your question that you asked about, Wayne, switching a couple of players around, I go back to the 06 grand final.
Oh, yes.
06 grand final, Sean Berrigan put in at number 9, who goes on to win a Clive Churchill at 9, defended, however, out in the centres, marking up against
Greg Inglis.
Yeah,
and Greg Inglis didn't fire a shot.
That grand final. Barrow did a great job. Another one,
because Hodjo went to
fullback. Kay went out onto the wing.
That's right.
And David Staggs who was playing at centre, went into defend in the middle.
Yeah.
So that was one of his masterstroke moves. The other one that just really sort of jumps out at me, and I remember it vividly because I was involved. It was 2004. We played our a semi-final, the first ever semi-final that was played up at Dairy Farmers in Townsville.
Oh, was that Matt? Gordy.
It ended up being Gordon Tallis's last ever game.
Yeah.
So here he is, Gordon Tallis, captain of the club, done everything in the game, and before the game gets dropped to the bench.
That's right.
And who's replacing Gordon? Hello, it's me. Pardon? This is Gordon's last game. He's playing at his home venue. He grew up in Townsville. And, just dropped a bombshell. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
No, it didn't work. We lost the game.
First time the Cowboys beat the Broncos.
We lost the game, and that was Gordon's last. But Gordon hasn't got past that, obviously, for obvious reasons. I mean, so being part of a coach, you've got to come up with some bold moves.
I remember.
Yeah, the buck stops and starts with you. And Wayne certainly was more than happy to take on that burden if it was going to be on the weekend. But what a masterstroke it was.
I still remember that tour. We were away for 2 days. Well, we'd packed for 2 days.
I like how you call it a tour.
Well, it was.
That's all it was. It was a junket for somebody like yourself.
No, we were reporting.
Oh,
Come
right.
on, this was this was the Broncos making the semis and just going on to another premiership. But then all of a sudden the Cowboys win, and we end up staying in Townsville with 2 days worth of clothes for 2 weeks. Outstanding stuff. 13 55 0467 736 736. Steve has said, "Hey, morning Ben and Cos. The Dolphins were up and about, score a try, and they all got on board with the celebration. Tavita Pangai took on Huss and Carrigan in a front row. That was team lifting. That was right. That was good stuff. Carrigan scored and got no thanks or no input. A couple of backslaps. There is something wrong within. I hear half live on the Gold Coast. No team bonding at all. They train and then take off back to the beach."
Look, again, Steve, thanks for your text. I mean, it's evident, isn't it? You see the sides, and winning is a wonderful drug for any professional team.
Okay, the Dolphins have to do this now without Felice Kafusi. Perhaps on that hit, Adam Reynolds.
Yes.
Do you fight it at the judiciary?
Oh, look, my personal opinion, I think the NRL have made the judiciary so you don't win. When was the last win or downgrade that you had coming out of the judiciary? If they go and fight it and there's evidence to say that he made contact with the head, well, no, he's not going to win. It just doesn't happen anymore. There is no wins.
You roll the dice, though, for a downgrade. You roll the dice because, I mean, it's 2 weeks. So that's this week where they have to win against the Knights and then the first week of the finals, which is sudden death.
Yeah.
So if he's not back, I mean, it's season over. If he rolls the dice and loses, it's 3 weeks anyway.
How do you get the downgrade? What do you say, that the contact was minimal?
Well, Adam Reynolds
took a dive, hurt his shoulder, not his head. I don't know, Ben. I just haven't seen...
Well, that's what happened, though, right?
Correct. But I haven't seen the NRL go, actually, we got that wrong, and you can have a downgrade, or actually you can get off.
Maybe not get off, but maybe get off with a fine if it's a downgrade. 13 55 0467 736 736. The Monday means test with Corey Parker. Round 26. 1 game to go. It's all thanks to the Colonel. Speaking of the Colonel, are the chooks cooked? Well, they are at KFC, but hold your horse. Hold fire.
Okay.
We'll do that after the break. 3 season-ending injuries to a couple of players, well, 3 obviously. Walker, Radley, and Smith. They can surely win without them, can't they? That next. It's like lying down on the psychologist's couch, Corey, and just opening up and letting out your inner feelings. One word to sum up the Broncos in 2024, or what would help the Broncos going forward. 13 55 0467 736 736. I like the 2 Gregs that have already called in the running for the KFC. The Colonel's $100 voucher. Imagine the fun, Corey. You have been imagining the fun you'd have a KFC with a $100 voucher.
$1 million.
1 million would be a lot better.
I reckon you could do some damage with 100. Don't worry about that. Look, everybody hurts. The chooks are hurting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sam Walker, Brandon Smith. The reports coming out of the hen house today, both ACLs. So that's the best part of a year.
The greatest cliche in rugby league is a week is a long time in rugby league, because in the space of 80 minutes, in my opinion, their season has just been taken away.
Can't win it?
I don't believe so. It's so difficult.
Chooks fans are very passionate,
Yeah, I get
Corey,
that.
and they
Of course
and they
they are.
jump on. I know
Yeah.
Damien's
They're
already
gonna
texting
fight.
through.
I'm in the firing line, but that's okay.
No, but maybe they share the same opinion as you.
To win grand finals, Benny, you need a few things. One's luck.
Yep.
You need a bit of that.
Mm.
2 is you need your strongest team available. And 3, obviously, you need to score enough points. The Roosters have a terrific team on paper and have been going exceptionally well. They had a blip on the radar yesterday over the Raiders, who got a good victory. But in doing that, ACL to Sam Walker, their star halfback, who's been in fine touch of late. ACL to their number 9, who, again, loves the big games and has been part of this success that they've had this season. 2 of their spine members, Ben. 2 of their spine members. Now, yes, the people are going to say, well, Joey Manu can go to 6 and, Billy Smith will go into centres, etc. But it just takes away so much of their creativity. James Tedesco's not a ball-playing fullback. So then it's just Luke Keary and Joey Manu. Joey Manu plays off the cuff as good as you'll ever find, but a lot of pressure on him. Doesn't have a kicking game.
Yeah.
Tedesco doesn't have a kicking game. So, again, it's just Luke Keary.
And then the person that touches the ball the most, the number 9 as well, you're missing him. So that's familiarity.
Throw Victor Radley into the mix, who picked up a shoulder injury, so we'll wait and see what unfolds with that. Very, very difficult.
Just on Brandon Smith, I mean, there was a bit to play out post-match on this, and it was to do with Elliot Whitehead and the coach Trent Robinson.
Obviously, I didn't mean to do Brandon. I know he's come up with a bad injury and stuff, and I'm sorry to him for that. Obviously, I just wasn't happy the way I went over to ask about Brandon, and Trent Robinson's had a go at me. I went to apologise, and he's turned on me. So, the way he done that, I thought that were out of order. I don't know what he said in his media, if he's done it before yet. But yeah, look, I'm sorry to Brandon, and the other one, I'm not sure if you lot know the rules or I don't know the rules. I just tried stopping an offload. I didn't strike in any malice way, but yeah, whatever. I don't care.
He came up and just wanted to ask how Brandon was, and I just sort of said it's too many times. The hip drop's been pretty common in his game for a long time, and I just said it's too many times. It's cost us a player. That was it. He said it was an accident, and I just said, look, you've done it too many times. That was it. Yeah, it's been pretty common. If you go and have a look, it's not, I like Elliot, I've watched him since he was in Bradford and Catalans, and, but it's been pretty common, and that was what I said. I know he's opened it up here, which is why we're talking about it, and I wouldn't usually want to talk to you guys about it, but he opened it up, and it's been really common in his game his whole career.
Is there a right or wrong side of this, Corey?
Well, the wrong is that Brandon Smith's going to be out for the season. More importantly, that their most crucial games coming up.
Between Whitehead and Trent Robinson, though.
Well, as Robbo just touched on, he's obviously got his views and opinions on Elliot Whitehead's game, and he didn't bring it up. He didn't open the can of worms, so Elliot did and went down that path, and Robbo continued to follow.
Trying to apologise, but the coach said no, get out of here. 13 55 0467 736 736.